Miss South Africa has announced an all-star, all-female judging lineup made up of some of the country's most influential and respected personalities. Now, among the panelists is former public protector, now Professor Thuli Madonsela. But what does it mean to be part of this year's judging committee? Thuli Madonsela, former public protector, joins us now, all the way from Stellenbosch, where you now call home. Prof, thank you so much for your time this evening. Miss South Africa, I mean, that's glitz and glamour and a place for TV personalities and radio personalities and supermodels. What in the world did you think when you got the call to ask you to be on the judging panel?
Greetings, Basal, and thanks for the privilege. I must say that I wasn't sure whether it was a fake news or a prank request until my daughter assured me that it's a real request. And it took me days to reflect on it and find a way to reconcile what Miss South Africa stands for and what I've stood for all my life regarding justice and social justice, including justice for women.
Now, take us into your confidence in some of that reflection that you took. As a young woman growing up in South Africa, your world would have been very different. Miss South Africa, the competition would have been very different when you were a young woman. We know that that competition reflects very much the history of South Africa because it was a segregated competition at some point as well. And then when things started changing in South Africa, we had our first black Miss South Africa. And of course, the story, the narration around the story about Miss South Africa goes on from there. When you were growing up, what did Miss South Africa mean to you, if anything, that is?
Two things about Miss South Africa when I was growing up. The first one was the racial segregation. But the second thing was that it was all about female beauty and female objectification. And there wasn't really a respect for the fact that this is a gateway to women finding a niche as business persons, as leaders, and as ambassadors for that which is good and which we want to see in the world for real, not just world peace as lip service. So it was different then, but we must agree that this pageant and many other pageants have undergone a huge metamorphosis, and they reflect more of a modern outlook on women than the ancient, very patriarchal approach to women.
Now, we can't have this conversation without looking at the reality that many South African women face on a daily basis. Just tonight, before I started my conversation with you, two of our lead stories involves two matric pupils in KZN, two young women in the prime of their life who were not just murdered, but were hacked to death. We also had, I'm sure you know, the gang rape of 8 women in Krugersdorp just last week that just sent ripples through a country that experiences those ripples far too often. A social media account today, Keep the Energy, a very good gender-based violence social media account today again brought out the numbers. Over almost 42,000 rape cases reported over the past year in South Africa. Happy Women's Month, they say, in the rape capital of the world. What role do you think a competition like Miss South Africa plays in a country where women's lives are really so cheap, like here in South Africa? And how does it remain relevant? And how does it make itself be reachable for the average South African woman and the average young girl growing up in South Africa today?
Perhaps I'll start with the last one, that these competitions are a gateway for young people acquiring the social capital that brings them to the fore of society where we can see their talents. I remember recently reading 2 books, one by Baseta Namagalimele and another one by Sonia Booth. And both of them talk about how this opportunity opened a gateway to many other opportunities. And Miss South Africa is the kind of competition that allows any girl from anywhere in the country to find their way into this stage where they're groomed beyond what they know by then and given an opportunity to present themselves in respect of their best foot forward. But it's also a platform that can be used and has been used to highlight the need to create a society that embraces the humanity of everyone, a society where peace is not just the absence of war, but peace includes the absence of gender-based violence and violence of any sort in the family, in society as a whole. But just lastly, the issue of GBV growing. Part of it is a backlash against the success of women. When people see young women like yourself taking up spaces, young women like Zozi taking up spaces and confidently leading, this becomes a problem when the messaging to our boys is still saying you should be on the driver's seat. So we need to reach out a lot more to boys than we are reaching out to girls. We have to reach out to girls to make sure that their confidence is built, but we also have to reach out to men to let them know that women's rising does not mean your fall.
Professor, before I let you go, what will you be looking for in your Miss South Africa when you take up the judge's seat a little later this month?
Of course, like everyone else, I have to look at the aesthetics. It is a beauty competition, but more specifically for my side, I am looking at leadership that inspires hope at this time of perma-crisis for our country and for the world. Somebody who exudes kindness, somebody who inspires hope, peace, and unity at a time when the world is very divided, but also somebody who's a problem solver, because this is an opportunity for women to showcase their leadership and to move society to the next level of human thriving.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. And good luck with that judging responsibility. That's Thuli Madonsela, former public protector, now professor, and now Miss South Africa judge, joining us live there from Stellenbosch. We thank her for her time this evening.